So I text Jake that he was going to lead the show today, and then he gets up and leaves.
Yeah, no, I don't want to be a part of this. Welcome everybody to the BSing Sports Network with host Ryan and I. We are here to talk starts and sits for Week 4. Ryan, how you
That we
doing this
are.
morning?
I'm a little tired, man. I got up pretty early this morning. I have finals due today, so pretty tired. But we're chugging along. We're gonna make it. We've already got some interesting, I guess controversy is not a great word. We've had a couple of late pieces of news per se with players being in, players being out.
Mm-hmm.
We all thought Deshaun Watson was going to play yesterday. Watson and Derek Carr is another one. Sounds like he's going to play today, which is mind blowing. But
Yeah, no, I'm very shocked about that.
so, couple rookies starting there.
Who do you
Jake,
like
which
more?
one? That's what I was going to ask you. Who do you like more? Um, Personally, I would probably just avoid both of them due to the fact that we have not seen either of them in game action in the NFL level. However, if I had to pick one, it would probably be O'Connell, um, just because the Chargers defense allows the most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year, and the run defense for the Chargers is not much better. So at least
Mm-hmm.
I can expect Josh Jacobs, to have his usual field day kind of days against the Chargers. Whereas without Nick Chubb, I'm not 100% sold on Jerome Ford yet.
Fair enough. I like O'Connell, if I'm being honest, as far as rookie quarterbacks. I think that offense is very simple. They're going to hand the ball off to Josh Jacobs a lot. I think he's up there and people you should probably like. I mean, you're starting Josh Jacobs regardless, but I think he has a big fantasy football out.
Yeah, as far as DFS plays, I mean, I know he's expensive, but this might be a scenario where I'd pay up for Josh Jacobs.
Oh yeah, um, with Dorian Thompson,
He
I
can
don't have any
mimic.
faith that offense hasn't looked good regardless.
Watson's been up and down. I mean, he's got a couple 20-point games already this year, but I feel like Dorian Thompson Robinson is actually a pretty good mimic of Deshaun Watson's skill set. I think he does a lot of things very similar. I think he's just as mobile, kind of Walmart version of Watson per se. Not saying he's going to put up Watson numbers today, but I'm saying that his skill set is the same.
Yeah, no, it should be interesting. That actually affects my starts and sits for today.
It does. It actually affects my lineup against you today, which I think you were probably going to win anyway. But now I have CJ Stroud against Pittsburgh.
CJ Stroud against Pittsburgh, man, I don't like it. I still don't like it. As we talked about yesterday, that defensive line. TJ Watt's going to be in the backfield constantly.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes. I expect, a lot of short passes, a lot of screens and whatnot. So Will Levis is a healthy scratch today, but as he has been every game. I'm wondering when that kind of ends because Tannehill, for both real life and fantasy, not looking good this year.
Yeah, no, I actually was going to use him as a buy low in DFS.
I mean, he's got a great matchup today.
Yeah, and I think he could, get you 20 points in for that price. It's pretty worth it in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, Cincinnati. I guess it's closer to the middle of the pack, right? They're allowing the 13th most points to quarterbacks in fantasy. So, I mean, if you really wanted to, go ahead. But I personally don't like. So I have a very set strategy when I do DFS. I do my stack and my run back based around the highest implied scoring game in on the slate this week. So I have a lineup where I have Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, and then my run back is Tyreek Hill, and then I have a Tua and Jalen Waddle stack where I ran back with Gabe Davis. So like my lineups are usually built around the highest implied scoring game in fantasy. So and then I'll pick other pieces from games that aren't going to be complete shit shows or guys that have good matchups, but that's generally how I build my lineups around. So I always my quarterback is always from the highest scoring game that Vegas tells me is going to be the highest scoring game anyway.
I mean, it works out for you. It seems like a lot, so I'm glad you're doing that.
Yeah.
So you want to
Yeah.
jump into the start sits?
Yeah, sure. So
You want
get
to start
on
with
with it.
quarterbacks?
Absolutely. I'm
Okay.
sitting Deshaun Watson and I'm sitting Jimmy Garoppolo.
I mean, those are good. I don't think
and
we're
if
going to
you
put them
didn't
on.
and if you didn't already, I'm sitting Desmond Ritter.
Yeah.
Man, Desmond Ritter does not look good today.
Nope. He just throws it to his first read and calls it a day.
Yeah, really. I mean, staring the guys down. It's it's horrible.
I feel so bad for Pitts in London. They don't deserve that. They deserve a proper quarterback.
Yep.
But in realism, my sits today are Dak Prescott against the New England Patriots. New England has a good defense. They like to mix things up. They
They're
like to
allowing
confuse
the third least fantasy points to quarterbacks at 10.7 points per game.
Yeah, no, it's insane.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
like
a
it
good
one
set.
bit.
Now, there is a league where I do have to play him because my other option's Baker Mayfield. And
See, I like that one better.
yeah, I don't know. I'm not 100% sold on it. I still
Why
have some
not?
time to make the swap, though. So we'll see. We'll see where I lean with that.
There's time. You have an hour and 20 minutes to make that decision.
I'm playing
and
mind
then my
games with my opponent.
Yeah, and then my second sit is Kenny Pickett. I don't like that offense at all. I think they're null. They've done nothing to do anything. He looks lost without his security blanket and Deontay Johnson. And so when he gets back, maybe that will improve. Ooh,
Yeah,
did you get
he
that update?
doesn't look very good. However, the Houston Texans are kind of middle of the pack, in terms of allowing fantasy points to quarterbacks. I expect Pittsburgh to run the ball today very effectively because the Texans do allow the sixth most fantasy points to running backs. So I expect this to be a coming out party for Najee Harris. I expect him to rebound. I do have him in a DFS lineup. I also have him in one of my fantasy lineups. I'm rolling with him today. He's actually one of my good starts for running backs today. All formats.
Wait, who's your
Najee Harris.
Najee.
Harris.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
I went the opposite. I went Jaylen Warren.
Honestly, if you desperately need a flex play, I think today would be okay for Jaylen Warren. It's just he doesn't have consistent enough usage for me to be an RB2. He's had a couple of explosive plays, but outside of that, I mean, his touches are just not where you'd want them to be a consistent starting running back. But however, like I said, because of the matchup, if you want to flex him, by all means.
Oh yeah, no, I like him there. But as far as quarterback starts, who you got?
As far as quarterback starts, I have Bryce Young starting today.
Really?
I do expect the Vikings to be able to move the ball kind of at will. I'm not impressed with the Panthers defense. However, the Vikings are allowing the third most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year. So in potentially neutral, if not negative game script, you would expect Bryce Young to have to throw the football quite a bit. And I expect him to have success doing so because the Vikings do allow quite a few points to quarterbacks this year. Like I said, third most.
Wow, I didn't know they allowed the third most. That's even with Hunter. I know Hunter's like top 2 sack leaders right now and getting pressure.
Yep.
I'm surprised that defense does that. No.
Yeah, 24.1 points, I think it was per game, if I'm not mistaken. Now, granted, they have played Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts. It's 23.8, so they allow 23.8 points per game. But yeah, I love the matchup. It's all there. Like I said, probably negative game script. So I think that he's in a good spot to kind of have a boom week, kind of, his quote unquote coming out party as well. My other start for quarterbacks is Matthew Stafford. I know the real life numbers aren't there. However, this is a high volume passing attack again in a game that's supposed to be relatively close. And Indianapolis is allowing the fifth most fantasy points to quarterbacks and the eighth most to wide receivers. So I expect the Rams to throw the ball often and have success with that on the road.
Yeah, no, I like Stafford there a lot, and our boy #Puka to have a big game. I think he scores his first touchdown today. So any bettors out there, if you want a anytime touchdown, I think that's the one you go for.
Okay, anytime touchdown for Puka Nuke. I actually don't hate that one. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good bet today. And I told a couple people this morning on Twitter, or excuse me, X, to start Tutu Atwell in their lineups when they were asking me their start sit questions as well.
Yes,
I just think
saw
the
that.
volume's going to be there. The efficiency should be there. I think it's set up to be a pretty good game for the Los Angeles Rams passing attack.
Yeah, no, I agree. As far as my starting quarterbacks, I think you're going to laugh at this because I showed you my DFS, but I have the 0-3 two worst teams starting quarterbacks as must starts. That is Justin Fields and Russell Wilson.
Denver
Both
allows the
defenses.
second most fantasy points to quarterbacks and the first most to running backs, which I mean is a little inflated after last week, but
Yeah. But I love both these. I don't think Denver's going to be able to stop Justin Fields. I think he's just going to revert back to running the ball when his first read isn't there, which I assume Pat Surtain's going to be on DJ Moore all day. So if you want a flex play for Mooney's probably it because Damari Mathis, the second corner for Denver, has just been getting cooked all year so far. So and then Russell Wilson, I know people think he's been tragic, but he's been putting up fantasy points all year so far. And let's see, what do we have him at? Yeah, he's QB10 right now in PPR formats. And so this Bears defense is atrocious, and you just have to play him. And I'm not trying to sound like a homer, but I think we both took the over in this game. There's going to be very little defense played, and Denver's offense isn't bad, but I also think the Bears offense, like Denver hasn't stopped anything all year. So
both of these teams are top 6 in fantasy points allowed to both quarterbacks and running backs. Denver allows the second most to quarterbacks at 24.1. Chicago allows the sixth most to quarterbacks at 22.1. And then they allow the third most to running backs at 32.2. And then, like I said, Denver allows the most to running backs with it being inflated a little bit from last week. So,
but yeah, on to our running backs. I know we've kind of talked about Najee and Jaylen Warren already, but I was really shocked today. We got that update that Ezekiel Elliott is going to get some starter reps this game, and like I was wondering if you want to shed a little light on, has Stevenson been that bad?
So Stevenson, as far as running is concerned, is averaging under 3 yards a carry this year. It just hasn't been particularly his best running year. He still has the receiving upside. He's still heavily involved in the receiving game. So out of the two, I would start Stevenson still. However, if I can avoid the situation like in DFS per se, I'm not playing either of them. The Cowboys allow the third least amount of fantasy points to running backs at 11.5 per game. So if I can avoid both, I'm going to. A good start for me actually is Alexander Madison. I know, the Vikings should successfully be able to throw the ball as well, but this is why I'm taking the over because, again, Carolina Panthers, fourth most fantasy points allowed to running backs this year at 31.2. And Alexander Madison had a pretty good game last week. He was heavily involved in the passing game, 20 rushes last game as well. So the volume is there. I really don't believe Cam Akers comes in and steals a heavy amount of touches from him. I think Cam Akers is probably closer to James Robinson than anything at this point. So I'm confidently starting Alexander Madison in a couple of dynasty leagues and in a DFS lineup.
Man, that's crazy. I mean, everybody was big on Madison this year, and he's just not produced. The volume's there. It's just he hasn't been able to get anything going, and which is crazy because that offense is good. They have all the weapons. You wouldn't expect that to happen. But yeah, my starts today are DeAndre Swift for the Eagles. He has just put up numbers after numbers. And I think this game with Washington just gets out of hand, and the Eagles just start running the ball, and he's proven to be explosive. They're the 14th ranked or 16th ranked rushing defense. So I think Swift has another big day. I think he goes over 100 yards. And yeah, no. And then Jalen Warren, on the other hand, Houston has a terrible run defense, and I think he breaks off a big run. So for fantasy football, if you have a flex spot, I could see him getting you 12 points with 60 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean it's possible. I already gave my take on Jalen Warren. Like I said, flex play, the volume's concerning. I would probably rather start Najee over Warren, but I could see one way or the other.
Yeah, it's just that offensive line just hasn't been good. And so with that being said,
hopefully, they get a little more consistent as the season goes along.
Yeah. But on to receivers. Who do you want to sit?
Well, not Christian Kirk. 8 catches for 84 yards this morning is a pretty good start.
Yep. Love that for him. I have him in a few leagues. Got him for cheap, too, because everybody had the hype around Calvin Ridley. So it was awesome.
I'm going to kind of piggyback off of your Kenny Pickett comment. I'm going to say sit the Steelers wide receivers, where, the Texans definitely give ground in the running game and to running backs. They don't so much against receivers. Houston allowing the 7th least amount of fantasy points to wide receivers to this point. So I expect a heavy dose of the ground game from Pittsburgh this week, and I expect that to kind of hurt the volume of the receivers.
Yeah,
David Njoku's playing. That's interesting.
Yeah, no, we'll get to Njoku.
Did you hear about what happened with him?
Yeah, no, he burnt his face and arms in a accident. I assume a kitchen accident.
And then I would assume too. And then showed up to the game in a mask. It's kind of a cool get-up.
I didn't see the get-up. I'm gonna have to look that up. But my sits are Devontae Adams, and you're not going to sit these guys. I understand it, but I just don't see a fantasy output.
Then let's say not start if you don't like DFS format. Don't start because you're not like you said, you're not sitting Devontae Adams. So I think that's bad advice.
Okay. Well, what about this one then? Because Amari Cooper has been good, but not too great. But also with the quarterbacks,
I think that's a good sit.
Yeah, I just don't. I like see him looking at him, but we have just like Ritter this morning. I think he might be staring down Cooper too much and just picks coming.
It's more so about the unknown for me, right? Like it's not so much staring down Cooper. We just don't know what Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to bring to the table, and he doesn't have the elite rushing weapon that is Nick Chubb. So I'm just not sure what to expect from him. If you don't have any better options, and you really desperately need Cooper to play, fine. But if I can avoid it, I would. I agree with that sit. Another big sit for me this week. Let's see. Who do we got here? Oh, okay. Falcons maybe moving the ball, question mark? Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with the game while I'm watching this with you guys. I mean, it should be pretty obvious at this point because none of them can be trusted, but I'm sitting Kansas City wide receivers. Jets, very, very good pass defense. It'll be the Travis Kelce show until further notice, so Chiefs wide receivers are on the bench. But another interesting sit for me anyway. I don't know how you feel about this.
I was going to say, if you had to pick one to start, though, for Chiefs receivers, who would you pick?
Sky Moore.
Sky Moore, yeah?
Yeah. Either Sky Moore or Rashee Rice. Those are the only two that I would ever consider starting at this point.
No, I agree with you.
Tony's not it. I don't even know if Tony's healthy.
I think he is healthy, but he's just
Bad.
yeah, dude. I don't know what's That's
I've
the
said
best.
this before. I'll say it again. Props to Kyle Trask for making Kadarius Toney look like a first-round pick.
Yep. No, and that's
But I am sitting Zay Flowers.
you were sitting Zay.
If I have no bet, obviously this all comes down to, do you have better options to play? But if I have better options to play, I'm sitting Zay Flowers. Bateman out, OBJ out. So defenses are already going to kind of key in on him anyway. And the Browns defense has been surprisingly fantastic this year. They allow the least amount of fantasy points to wide receivers and quarterbacks. The second least amount of, actually, they allow the least amount of fantasy points to quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends. They allow the second least amount of fantasy points to running backs. So outside of Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews, who were obvious starts, I am not playing anybody on the Ravens team.
Yeah. I don't even trust Lamar, to be quite honest. But who's your starting receivers? Have you gone over your starters?
My starting receivers?
Yeah.
No, we haven't. Have you gone over both your sits?
Yeah, I went over both my sits. It was Adams
man.
and Adams.
This is going to be weird. This is we'll jump into kind of preface what you and I are going to talk about tomorrow on the recorded podcast. Starting Courtland Sutton, who I was not very high on to start the season. And there is a lot of season left. However, to this point, Courtland Sutton has balled out. Courtland Sutton is the wide receiver 1 on the Denver Broncos team. And as you talked about, Russell Wilson's playing pretty well. It's one of the few bright spots for the Denver Broncos. So I'm starting Courtland Sutton this week.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, he's put up 19 points, 11 points, and 13 points, which is every bit of what you want. He is the wide receiver 26, which is wide receiver 2. Man, just outside of wide receiver 2.
Now before the year started, there was obvious signs that like Sutton was probably on his way, definitely wasn't going to get looked at being re-signed by Denver in the offseason. He was kind of on his way out, but this could be a revival for him in a contract year, if I'm not mistaken. So
be looking
at a payday in the offseason.
He's not in a contract year. He signed a 3-year contract last year. Him and Tim Patrick, and then Tim Patrick had the injury and then another injury this year.
How unfortunate.
Yeah, they both signed 3-year contracts. So he has one more year after this year. But, yeah, no, he's looked good. He is my start. Him and I know we've had a lot of questions.
Oh, you know what it is? He'll get cut in the offseason. He's less than an $8 million dead cap hit, so he'll probably be a post-June 1st cut is what it is.
Yeah, we'll see.
Which might be better for him if he keeps playing like this.
Yep, honestly. And then my other start is DeAndre Hopkins. I know we've had a lot of questions about it. I've asked about it. But with Treylon Burks down, he's the only option for Tannehill to throw to, in my opinion. So I see him getting the high volume that he's been getting. Hopefully he can score a touchdown or turn it into a bunch of yards, which he hasn't really done this year, but that's fine. Not really.
I have a different start as far as pass catchers go for Tennessee. I don't hate the DeAndre Hopkins one. I like the idea behind it. However, if I'm starting a pass catcher, I'm probably going Chig.
Really?
Yeah, Cincinnati allows the 6th most fantasy points to tight ends this year. So
you haven't been a big Chig supporter.
Strictly playing the matchup there. I'm not necessarily a long-term believer in Chig, but the tight end landscape looks worse than it ever has at any point in fantasy football. So when it comes to the bottom of the barrel, unless you have your obvious starts, your Hawks, your Kittles, your Kelseys, your Andrews, then you got to look elsewhere. Dallas Goedert's been a disappointment this year. So it's just been disappointing overall. So if I'm looking for any advantage I can get, Chig's got a pretty good matchup this week. So if I'm expecting Tannehill to bounce back, it'll be, I think it's because of with Chig.
I might start him in DFS just because you said that. We will see how that
Yeah,
goes.
I'm gonna have to look at my lineup after this and see if I can squeeze them in somewhere.
So I take it Chig's your start then for tight ends?
Yeah, Chig is my start for tight end.
I have Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, I have Hurst in a DFS lineup. I actually don't hate that.
He's looked like the only person that Bryce Young trusts. And I mean, I know he had the touchdown week 1, but I mean, like you said, tight end is just hit and miss. We have no idea who's gonna play well unless your name is Kelsey, Andrews, and Hawkinson. I mean, Laporta's making a name for himself, but
Yeah, Laporta's gonna have to start being in that conversation too, I guess.
which is crazy. Rookies, dude. There's a lot of good rookie tight ends this year, or they look promising at least.
I mean, the only one really producing as far as fantasy goes is Laporta.
Musgrave's had some.
Up and down.
Yeah, he did get that concussion, which really
Jordan Love has some of his numbers are extremely efficient, so I expect some regression in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, no, you called it too. Like they did not look good against the Lions.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's kind of weird. He ended up having a pretty decent fantasy day, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they got down by 3 touchdowns in the first quarter.
Yeah, that was rough. And then who's your sit?
For tight end?
Yeah. It's a rough one.
Yeah, I mean, all of them. Can I sit all of them?
Sadly, a lot of people need to play their tight ends. So
Yeah. My sit is I've already kind of mentioned his name. It's Dallas Goedert. Like there's just no consistent usage in the offense for Dallas Goedert. Jalen Hurts still looks a little, I guess gun shy probably is a good word. He looks a little hesitant, skittish in the pocket. Definitely heavily targeting AJ Brown and Devontae Smith this year, and Washington allows the 4th least amount of fantasy points to tight ends. So I am sitting Dallas Goedert.
Honestly, I just because of the news we talked about, and Njoku is my sit. He got injured. We don't know.
Yeah, what rookie quarterback? That's a bit of a messy situation there too.
Yeah, no, I don't know what to do with all that information. So if you have him, hopefully you have another tight end that you can listen to because
Well, Baltimore is also allowing the 2nd least amount of fantasy points to tight ends at 2.8.
damn, that's low.
Chiefs allow the least, 2.
Okay, so I just want you to call your shot today for fantasy football. Who produces the most fantasy points for each position? I'm gonna put you on the spot here.
Ooh, okay.
So quarterback.
Yeah, you did put me on the spot there. So, are we excluding the Thursday night game because David Montgomery putting up 34 points is going to kind of be hard to predict that.
We're counting just today.
Okay. And Monday night, games that just haven't been played.
Yeah.
So, as far as top quarterback goes, I am going to I'll take Kirk Cousins this week. The volume is they just throw the ball in an insane amount, and I think their defense is bad enough that it keeps it in neutral game script. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, they're top 5 in the NFL in terms of pass rate in what's considered neutral game script, which is within one score, one way or the other. So I think Kirk Cousins probably has the most reasonable chance to be quarterback 1. Running back 1. Running back 1. I'm going to go Kenneth Walker. This week, outside of David Montgomery. New York Giants, not very good at stopping the run. Kenneth Walker getting heavy usage, hot hand, 30 points last week, if I'm not mistaken, with multiple touchdowns. So, and I expect that to be a high scoring game as well. Wide receiver, I really want to go bold here, but I'm not going to. Jamar Chase kind of, had his revival last week. Tennessee is terrible against wide receivers, fourth most fantasy points. So I'm going to take Jamar Chase to be the wide receiver one this week. And then the tight end one this week, it's Kelsey. Like if I had to bet money on it, it's Kelsey. It's just the reality of the situation. Like it's Kelsey and then everybody else. So.
Oh yeah, no, I like it. I just wanted to put you on the spot, see how you did.
How about you?
Me?
You.
So
outside of tight end, can't use any of the same names I did.
Okay, so I'm gonna go Homer here. I think Russell Wilson puts up godly
That's not a bad
numbers.
pick. That's not a bad pick. Usually I'd make fun of you, but that's not a bad pick.
I think he probably throws for 4 touchdowns minimum. Probably rushes for 30 yards.
Did you take the over? We all took the over in that game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. It's going to be a barn burner if I had to guess. Justin Simmons isn't even playing.
Watch that game be like 3-0.
Yeah, right. It's going to just look stupid.
Man. Yeah, no kidding.
Running backs, like I said, I think Swift has a big day just because I think the Eagles go up big on the Commanders, and he's just running all day. And then for receivers, man, I really like our boy Puka. I think he has
That's the wide receiver one, huh?
I think he has a big game today. All that he's lacking, he's getting the targets, he's getting the catches.
It also sounds like Kupp's not going to be immediately ready either, so he might have a chance to keep you on week 5.
Yep. I'm still playing him regardless because somebody needs to catch the ball.
Yeah, we've talked about it. There's a role for #Puka in this offense once Cooper Kupp comes back. Tutu Atwell is the obvious candidate to, see regression.
Yeah. And then for tight end, I'm just going to throw out a fun one.
I told you could use Kelsey. I
like Kelsey, but give me Kittle. Give me Kittle to have a big game with Brandon Ayuk hurt and Debo hurt as well.
Is healthy. Debo is the one that's questionable, but I think he's actually active.
Oh, I thought Ayuk was the one that was hurt more. So
no, Ayuk was hurt week 3. But he's back. He's healthy. I think. I'm pretty sure he's healthy.
Oh well, that's null and void.
But Debo missed every single practice this week, so I'm not sure how much he has it in him to play this week.
True. But with that being said, you got anything else to say?
No, man. We are. We got, first off, I loved the fact that I didn't have to wait hours and hours and hours for football today. I would take a Sunday morning football game every single day of the week over a Thursday night game. Like if they could just permanently move Thursday night football to 9:30 a.m. Sunday, that would be awesome.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I love it. I love waking up and just football ready.
Did we pick what did you pick for this game? Under, over?
I can let you know in a half second.
I'm looking at it right now. I
picked the over. Why?
I was just curious because it's still 20-7.
Oof.
Looking very unlikely that it's going to hit the over.
Yeah, that's not good. But with that, thanks you.
Jags cover under.
Yeah, you called it.
Go ahead. Well, the game ain't over yet.
True. But thanks to all that listened. If you're watching this after the fact, we appreciate it. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you for listening to the BSing Sports Network, where we do a whole lot of BSing and talk some sports.